wants to be a star these days, to be a celebrity, to be famous. But is it really always cracked up to be? For some stars, being famous can be a nightmare. Today I'm going to meet one of Hollywood's great hell-raising legends, here at his favourite bar in the Meatpacker district of New York, Mickey Rourke. When this Hollywood hotshot was at the top of his game in movies like 9.5 Weeks and Angel Heart, he looked like he had it all.
For about 3 years, he was the hottest thing on earth.
Hollywood loved him. All over the world, men wanted to be him, and women, well, they just wanted him. So why did the 80s favourite bad boy get dumped by Hollywood, and in the process, lose everything he had?
People actually say, hey, didn't you used to be in the movies? I go, Jesus Christ.
And after a lost decade of punch-ups, extraordinary plastic surgery, and burning every bridge in Tinseltown, can he really make a comeback? Mickey, how are you?
I guess you're the man, huh?
Well, you're the man. I've never felt quite so apprehensive before interviewing anybody, yeah. I mean, I said to somebody who knew you, I said, what's he like, Mickey Rourke? They said, he's just dangerous.
No, that's not, you know, that's just...
Do you feel dangerous these days, Mickey?
No. Okay.
I mean, on a scale of probability, what is the chance of you hitting me in this interview?
Depends what you say.
That's what worries me.
Yeah.
I love your bar.
It's my friend's bar, Socialista. It's where I come to relax.
You just hang out here?
Yeah, it's pretty low-key. It's close by, and the guy that owns the place is my best friend.
Let's go back to the start, Mickey. Talk to me very quickly about your upbringing. You were born in New York. The exact year appears to be something of a mystery.
Well, that's because, you know, like in athletics or business I'm in, they use that against you, so I don't talk about it. So
you've never really revealed your real age?
No, but that's something I'm not going to talk to you about either.
Part of movie star mystique, is it?
Well, it's like, you know, as soon as a running back in the NFL hits 30 years old, they're over. So they put a stigma on it. So I don't really think it matters.
Describe to me your upbringing. How would you describe it?
My upbringing. Well, you know, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but let's say if I had a choice of living where I grew up and having to do it all over again, I would prefer not to have been born at all.
Really?
How's that sound? Yeah.
That sounds quite dramatic.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of things that went on that I'm not even comfortable talking about. It was just unusual. It was very violent. It was crazy.
I mean, you were born in New York,
yeah.
And at the age of 7, your mother just took you to Miami.
Right.
You didn't really know what was going on, but your
Right.
father was no longer part of your life.
Sure.
And you got a stepfather.
Right.
And you were abused, you and your brother, through this period. Would that be a fair way of describing it?
No, there was craziness going on.
But it was violent.
It was very violent, yeah.
And you were beaten.
Well, I sort of kind of, this stuff, I don't even want to talk about that, you know. It was the guy, it was a very crazy situation, and it was nutty.
I think what he went through as a child was very heavy. He never got over his mother leaving his father and following her mother to Florida, to an area that was very different, and losing his father.
Being brought up in a step-family with 4 new brothers and a policeman's stepfather was tough on the young Rourke.
When he was 7 years old, this was a very sensitive little boy who was wide-eyed and very trusting and not knowing how to protect himself at all.
People saying, oh, he's a mad drunk or he's a druggie, you know, fuck you. You know, that's a very easy hook to just label you if they don't know the real deal. You know, I lived in a house where my mother turned her head to everything that was going on, and a lot of shit was going on. And, you know, you don't realize it till you're older that, you know, the shit sticks with you. And to the extent that it stuck with me, I had no clue.
Growing up in a rough Miami neighborhood had toughened Mickey, and although he loved sport, particularly boxing, he was failing in the classroom. So when he left school in the early 70s, the now streetwise Rourke gravitated towards the lowlifes and petty criminals of South Beach. He may well have joined their ranks permanently had it not been for a sudden whim. At the age of 19, with no other real prospects, he moved to the artistic hub of New York with a vague, uninformed plan to become an actor. Did you see acting as an escape route? Was it something you'd always wanted to do? How would you describe your attraction to the world of acting?
I was actually planning on a career in boxing, and I got hurt at a very young age where I had to take a year off because of a couple of concussions, and I kind of segued accidentally into the acting thing, and then I found it kind of interesting. You know, I was living in some hotel in the village, and there was an older man there, and he would give me books to read, and I found the books interesting.
Like many aspiring actors, Mickey took cheap rooms at the Hotel Marlton in Greenwich Village, where he was befriended by theatre enthusiast Carl Montgomery.
I was the night manager of the Hotel Marlton when Mickey checked in, and he was there for about 3 years during the period when we first really got to know each other quite well.
Carl took him to see plays and gave him biographies and books about acting, which Mickey devoured.
There's something in my instincts told me that he was going to be one of the finest actors of that period. I really felt that he had the potential, and I never felt that way about anyone else.
As you read about it, what did you begin to think about the profession, about Hollywood, about movies?
My favorite actors back then were like, you know, Charles Bronson, you know. I didn't know who Marlon Brando was or Montgomery Clift or,
Really?
No, I had no clue. And then this guy would give me these biographies to read and other things, and then I go, oh, this is what it's about.
Encouraged by friends like Carl Montgomery, Mickey began to apply himself. His dream was to become a member of the Actors Studio, the prestigious home of method acting, famous for introducing the world to movie legends such as Marlon Brando and James Dean. But the ex-Miami Beach bum was far from ready for that. So, for 6 years, he worked 2 or 3 jobs at a time and paid for private tuition with Actors Studio drama coach Sandra Seacat.
He wanted private sessions, and he would come for privates and give me a handful of cash. And I found out several years later that sometimes he wouldn't eat for 2 or 3 days in order to pay me.
The Actors Studio's method requires students to dig deep into their own emotional experience and relationships. And for his entrance audition, Sandra suggested his most difficult challenge.
I had to do a scene where I'm talking to my father, and I couldn't relate to a father because I didn't see mine since I was 6, but I missed him, you know, and I always, like, had stuff in my head about him. So Sandra said to me, she says, how badly do you want to get into the Actors Studio? And she knew I really wanted to get in there. She said, you're going to have to go find your father. Fuck, you know. So I actually went to find him and found him the day before I did the test. And then I was able to relate to somebody that, other than some kind of beast.
I mean, you actually went into a bar.
Yeah.
And there he was.
Yeah.
You knew exactly who he was.
I went into a restaurant where I remember he and I used to go at the White Castle and have hamburgers. And he happened to be sitting in the place that I walked in.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a freakish coincidence.
Yeah.
And how was the first moment of the reunion?
I followed him out on the street, and I walked up next to him, and I just stepped down on the curb. And I said, are you so-and-so? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, I'm so-and-so. And he said, oh, I always knew you'd come by one day.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, and then we went to this bar, and he bought me a dinner, and he had 20 screwdrivers, and he gave me $50, and I left and did my test the next day.
Did you ever see him again?
No, he died about a year later. He drank himself to death.
Stunned by the intensity and honesty of his performance, the audition panel at the Actors Studio inducted the awkward young Rourke immediately. There are some great people there, some great young actors.
Yeah, I walked in, I couldn't believe it. I see Al Pacino and, you know, Harvey Keitel, Chris Walken, and I was, fuck, this is the place, man.